Hi everybody, it's me, Teacher Mana, and in this video I'd like to share some ideas about how you could prepare and improve your speaking performance and grade in the B2 first Cambridge examination or C1 advanced. So you might have heard of them as FCE and CAE. It's very important for you as you go into the speaking interview to feel confident and as relaxed as possible. I'm saying as relaxed as possible because let's face it, it is an exam and a certain degree of nervousness is expected. Don't worry, you're normal. You're human. But there are techniques that you could keep trying while you prepare in order to make you seem more natural and more in your element as you speak, thus giving you a better chance at improving your grade and, well, passing at least the speaking component with flying colors. Buckle up, we're going to go through a few tips and tricks. I'll explain each one of them and hopefully they're going to help you out and you are going to do your absolute best in the speaking components of the Cambridge higher examinations of English, B2 first or C1 advanced. Ready? Here we go. So, the absolute most important thing, and perhaps the best thing you can do for yourself the minute you've decided to sit either B2 first or C1 advanced, is to become familiar with the types of tasks that you should expect. Luckily, both of these exams have very similar components to them and subcomponents. Meaning, in part 1, you should expect personal questions. Not too personal, don't worry, but questions that you can answer by referring to your own experience and thus talking about yourself, which is right down your alley. So nothing to be scared here. Try to make a good first impression by practicing such types of questions. And in the second part, you know that you'll see some pictures and you'll need to compare two pictures. So, knowing exactly what to expect means that you can plan ahead and you can practice your language, you can practice multiple tasks of this kind. Of course, it's best to have a partner, but even if you don't, you can practice on your own. It has happened before, don't worry. In the third part, you should expect a conversation with your partner. This one, I agree, is a little more difficult to practice on your own, so maybe you can, at least for this part, find someone who'd be, happy to help you or would be glad to practice with you. This is going to be a conversation between you and a partner about a particular question, and the exam is going to show you some ideas that you need to cover. It's like a spidergram, this visual prompt that I'm talking about. And finally, in part 4, you're going to answer interview questions just like in part 1, but this time the questions are more targeted to the general situation around the world, such as climate change or education, perhaps a little bit about technology. Generic topics that you should be aware of and naturally know some vocabulary about. Some vocabulary that's going to serve you well in your answers. Regardless, we'll get to all of this, everything that you need to know. But first things first, know the structure, know what to expect. The second advice we have for you would be to practice answering the different types of questions, of course, now that you are familiar with what's going to happen. But by focusing on avoiding to use the same exact words as the examiner used when they addressed you with the question. This is called paraphrasing. So trying to use synonyms or different structures in order to show your flexibility in the language and your flexibility with grammar and vocabulary implicitly. The moment you take a question and you rephrase it, you paraphrase it, you make it your own, and therefore you demonstrate your ability in English. Let me give you an example. If the examiner perhaps asks you, I don't know, what do you study at school? And you say, well, at school I study, you're not doing anything better than the question that was addressed to you. Which in turn can be okay, by the way. Rather than being quiet, just speak. But since we're talking about quality practice here, try to think about what you could say in order to avoid the words subject and study. So you could use something like, my major is English literature, for example. Currently, I will soon be a graduate and I hope to move on to a university where I could study universal literature and therefore become a literary critic or what have you. Maybe work in journalism later on. So there, you start from your major, which is the current topic, the current subject that you are studying, and then you can continue with giving more details about where this could lead. All right, so remember, try, when you're practicing, to find ways to paraphrase the question that was asked to you. Piece of advice number 3 for your preparation towards having a successful speaking interview in either FCE or CAE. Practice your argumentation techniques. By the way, this is not going to be useful only in speaking. It is going to be invaluable in the writing paper as well. So there. 2 birds, 1 sling, I suppose. But argumentation is the bedrock of your discourse, of your answers, of basically everything you say or contribute into a conversation in such an English exam. So what you want to do is to make sure that you expose yourself to enough questions, either about yourself or about the outside world, the way things are going today, like I said, science, technology, education, maybe politics even, social status. Try to Google or buy some practice test books in which you find questions typical to these exams so that you can practice giving arguments. Argumentation is an art, and basically anything that you offer as an opinion needs to be supported by reasons. Now, the more you practice, the better you're going to be able to offer reasons in a logical fashion and to organize them structurally in a way that convinces the reader or the listener. In speaking, it's going to be the interlocutor, basically your examiner. So, you take a question such as, why do you think students nowadays want to sit exams? And you can also refer to your own personal opinion, sure, but you don't want necessarily to refer only to yourself. So what you do is you start breaking down the reasons. Well, I suppose that the first And the main reason why students would focus on sitting exams is because they need qualifications. Whether they are language qualifications or, specializations for a job, and you start developing this. Secondly, though, I believe that's also a challenge, and people need challenges in life. So see, I started from the more basic reason, needing a qualification, and I moved on to the more abstract, the deeper reason that resonates with our being. Of course, it's always welcome if you can also deliver an example. An example can be in the form of referring to research, statistics, even if they are invented, as long as they are credible. Perhaps a personal experience that might be relevant in the situation. You could do that as well. Or refer to somebody you know, somebody famous who's been in a situation like this. So, remember, practice your own art of argumentation. Number 4. You probably already know this. In speaking part 3, either B2 first or C1 advanced, you need to talk to your partner. In fact, you might be invited to talk to your partner in part 4 as well. But let's stick to part 3 in order to demonstrate this next advice, which is practice asking for opinion, not just giving your opinion. In part 3, you need to debate on a question based on some ideas which are given to you by the interlocutor, so by one of the examiners, and then you need to conclude on either one or two of the ideas presented. Not an easy task, and what you don't want to do is either be too quiet or dominate the conversation. So, after you've taken care of the previous step, practice your argumentation techniques. In this step, practice also asking for your partner's opinion. Many candidates rely only on the question, "What do you think?" when they finish their intervention and they want to find out what their partner wants to say. It can be excruciatingly repetitive. So, I try to use questions like, are we on the same page here? Do you believe the same? Do we see eye to eye on this one? Would you like to add anything? Does this ring true to you? Different ways to ask for your partner's opinion. And please don't forget to do that, because in this part and a little bit in the next one, parts 3 and 4, you are explicitly assessed based on your interactive communication. And that is going to play a role and a part in your final grade. Make sure you're not too quiet, but not too dominant either. Give your opinion and ask for opinion. Then your partner will hopefully issue an opinion as well and ask you. Okay, on to the last tip for speaking. Here we go. So number 5, the last piece of advice for your speaking preparation as well as for your speaking interview. Learn how to get out of trouble. Sometimes we don't understand the question, perhaps. Maybe the interlocutor, the examiner addressing the question, spoke too fast. Or maybe we just blanked for a second there. It's okay. Don't panic. Get out of trouble. Ask for repetition. Have some of these questions ready to go. For instance, Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat it, please? Or simply, I'm terribly sorry. Could you repeat the question? So something, that invites the interlocutor to ask once again. They won't mind at all, so feel free to ask for repetition. Of course, try to also concentrate so that you don't have to ask for repetition too often, but still, if need be, you're okay to do that. Another thing that candidates usually panic about is not finding the right word in the context. So they start saying something and then you notice that they don't know what the word they want to say next is. Therefore, practice rephrasing and paraphrasing. You realize, for instance, that you want to say the word, I don't know, advantage, but it doesn't come to mind. So either think about synonyms, benefit would be one of them, or paraphrase it. In which case, it's absolutely okay to say, allow me to paraphrase this, and you start the sentence again. Allow me to paraphrase this is an extremely powerful tool that gets you out of the trouble of not saying anything. And last but not least, sometimes it happens that candidates don't know exactly what to say. After all, you can't be interested in everything that the examiner is going to ask you, and you can't be expected to have vast knowledge in all of the themes and topics that will come up. So what you do is you buy time. Unfortunately, you can't exchange questions. I'm sorry, I don't like this one. Can I get another question? You can't do that. But what you can do is buy time to think. And you do that with some filler expressions. Exactly doing this, filling time for you to think. Let me see. Well, this is something I have definitely not thought about. Wow, that's quite a challenging question and a challenging topic. Let me think. So stuff like this that helps you delay the moment you give the answer, but you do need to give it. So make sure that you go into the examination with an open mind and expect to be asked about almost anything about the world we live in and about yourselves. But don't worry, like I said, the questions won't go to being too personal. All right, remember, practice makes perfect. So try to do that as much as you can before you actually go into the exam. On behalf of everybody at Shakespeare School, fingers crossed, we wish you the best of luck with your preparation and examinations.